Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling something pretty cool, something called Retrieval-Augmented Generation. RG for short.
So, yeah.
It's AI, but think of it as AI that's constantly learning, always updating. Like, it can grab the freshest info, not just what it knew way back when.
Exactly. It's like, imagine you're trying to use a map from like 5 years ago to get around. You'd be lost.
Totally lost. So our deep dive this time is based on this article. It's called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, RAG. A real-time data solution for generative AI.
Catch a title.
I know, right? Okay, so it talks about these things called embeddings, and honestly, I'm a little fuzzy on that. Can you, break that down?
Yeah, so embeddings, think of it as translating our human language into something AI can actually understand.
Okay.
It's not just about the words themselves, but the meaning behind them, the context. It's how the AI knows, like Apple the fruit versus Apple the company.
That makes way more sense. So how does RAG actually use these embeddings to get us those super up-to-date answers?
Right. So there are a few parts to this. First, there's the retrieval module.
Okay.
That's like a supercharged search engine. But instead of just looking for the exact words you typed, it uses the embedding, so it gets the intent, like what you're really asking.
So it's not just keyword matching, it's actually trying to, get inside my head and figure out what I really want to know.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Then there's the vector database. That's where all this information is stored, but organized in a way that makes sense to the AI based on these embeddings.
So it's like a library, but instead of organizing by genre or author, it's by these AI codes.
You got it. And that makes finding the right info incredibly fast.
Okay, got it. So we've got the retrieval module, finding the info in the vector database, all thanks to these embeddings. What happens next?
That's where the generation module comes in. That's the last piece. This is where it takes all this fresh, relevant data and puts together into a response we can actually understand. It's like having a team of researchers constantly updating their knowledge and then giving you the TLDR version,
So it's not just giving me a bunch of links or technical jargon. It's actually processing it and making it useful to me.
Exactly. And what's really cool is RAG can pull from so many places, websites, those APIs we talked about, even specialized databases. It's super flexible.
Now that you mention APIs, I gotta ask, what are those and how do they fit into all this?
Oh, good question. APIs are basically like messengers between different software systems. They let RAG pull in real-time data from all sorts of places.
So it's not just limited to static websites or documents. It can actually get live updates from other systems.
Exactly. Think about a RAG system that's designed to help with travel planning.
Okay, yeah.
It could use APIs to access real-time flight info, hotel availability, weather forecasts, even currency exchange rates, all to give you the most up-to-date travel recs.
That's wild. So it's like having a personal travel agent that's constantly on top of everything, making sure you have the latest info. That's pretty impressive. So we've talked about websites, specialized knowledge bases, and now APIs. Are there any other sources that R can utilize?
Another one is knowledge graphs.
Knowledge graphs.
Yeah, these are ways of organizing info that's more structured, interconnected.
Yeah.
Like a map of concepts and relationships.
So it's not just about finding individual bits of info, but understanding how they all relate to each other.
Exactly.
Okay.
A knowledge graph can help R really understand the context of your question.
Got it.
So you ask about a historical event.
Mm-hmm.
R could use a knowledge graph to understand the people, places, events surrounding that event and give you a much more holistic view.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It seems like with all these different sources, our GOG could become incredibly knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But with all this power comes responsibility, right? How do we ensure that the info Aura is using is accurate and trustworthy?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest challenges with RAG. Because if the info it gets is wrong or biased, then the answers it gives us will be flawed too.
Right. So what are some ways to tackle this? How do we make sure our GAG is using good data and not getting misled by misinformation or fake news?
One way is to be really careful about the sources our guy has access to.
Okay.
So using trusted websites, reputable APIs,
Yeah.
and well-maintained knowledge graphs, maybe even using filters to weed out those iffy sources.
So it's like building this safe, reliable ecosystem of information that R can draw from.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And another thing is evaluating the info before using it.
Okay.
So checking the source, looking for other evidence, even using algorithms to detect biases or inaccuracies.
It sounds like there's a lot of effort going into making sure RAG is a responsible tool.
For sure.
But even with safeguards, there's always some risk, right? I mean, the internet is full of, well, questionable stuff.
That's true. We got to remember, our RAG is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways. It's up to us, the people building and using it, to make sure it's ethical.
It's that old saying, right? With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
And as ARG becomes more common, these ethical questions are going to be even more important. But for now, I think we've got a good grasp on the basics of RAG and its potential.
I agree.
We've looked at how it works, the key players involved, those different sources it can use, and even touched on some of the challenges and ethical stuff.
Yep.
But there's definitely more to explore. I'm really curious about how RAG is actually being used in different fields, how it's changing the way we work, learn, even have fun.
Oh, yeah, me too. Those real-world examples are where it gets really interesting, seeing how RAG is actually making a difference.
Well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into those real-world applications of RAG. I can't wait.
Sounds good. So before the break, we were starting to get into the real-world stuff, how R is actually being used out there.
Yeah, and I'm really curious about that. We talked a bit about customer service and healthcare, but I'd love to dig deeper. Those are fields where having the latest info is like mission critical.
Absolutely. For customer service, those RAG-powered chatbots, they're getting so much better. They can handle way more complex questions now, access those real-time product updates we talked about, even personalize their responses based on a customer's history. It's a whole different ball game compared to even a few years ago.
It's true. I remember how frustrating those old automated systems were. You'd get stuck in those endless loops and never get a real answer.
Oh, totally. But with ARG, things are changing fast.
It seems like it.
And in healthcare, imagine a doctor who can instantly get the latest research on a condition, cross-reference it with a patient's medical history, their genetic profile, and then recommend the best treatment plan.
Wow, that's like personalized medicine on a whole new level. But is that actually happening, or is it still just a concept?
It's starting to happen. Some hospitals are already using R to help doctors, especially with tough cases. And there are companies building RGAG platforms specifically for drug discovery and clinical trials.
That's amazing. It's incredible to think how RAG could improve healthcare and, speed up medical progress. But it's not just healthcare and customer service, right? What about something like education? Could RGAI play a role there?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine learning platforms that actually adapt to each student.
Yeah.
So RGAI could help teachers tailor lessons, recommend the right materials, even give real-time feedback as the student's working.
It's like every student having their own personal tutor. That could be a game changer, especially for students who need extra help or learn best on their own.
Right. And think about professional development, too. RGAI could help people stay up to date on the latest trends in their industry, learn new skills.
It's like continuous learning, but like supercharged. The way things change so fast these days, it's almost impossible to keep up. RDAG could be the key to staying ahead of the curve.
I think so. And it's not just learning new stuff, it's knowing how to use it.
Yeah.
ARGI can connect the dots between information and action, turning insights into results.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little here. What about something more, fun? Can RGAI do anything in the entertainment world?
Totally. Think about personalized movie recommendations that are actually good.
Yeah.
Not just based on what you've watched before, but your mood, the latest releases, what's buzzing on social media.
So no more scrolling through Netflix forever trying to find something to watch. Ari could actually suggest something you'd really enjoy right now.
That's the idea.
That's pretty awesome.
Or imagine interactive stories where the plot changes based on your choices, pulling in things from current events, even your social media.
Whoa, that's like taking storytelling to a whole other level, blending reality and fiction. I bet people would love that. What about for, writers, musicians, artists? Can RAG help them too?
Definitely. People in those fields are already using R or Bray to generate new ideas, break through creative blocks, even collaborate with AI on projects.
So it's not about AI replacing human creativity. It's more like expanding it, giving it new possibilities.
Exactly. It's like having a creative partner, someone to bounce ideas off of, explore new directions.
It's really amazing to see how RAG is showing up in so many different areas, from the everyday stuff to the really wild stuff. But with all this progress, I can't help but think about the potential downsides, too. We've talked about accuracy and trustworthiness, but are there other things we should be concerned about?
Yeah, there are. One big one is bias. If the data RA just trained on is biased, then its answers will be biased too.
So it all comes back to the data, huh? We need to be careful about where the data comes from and what biases might be baked into it.
Exactly. And there's also the question of jobs. As RA gets better, it might automate some jobs that humans are currently doing.
That's a valid concern. It's important to think about how we can prepare for those changes and make sure everyone benefits from AI, not just a select few.
I agree. It's a tough issue with no easy answers. But I think if we talk about these challenges openly and honestly, we can make sure AI helps us without hurting us.
Well said. It's a good reminder that AI is a tool. It's all about how we use it.
Exactly. As we keep exploring R, we need to stay critical, question our assumptions, and think about the long-term consequences.
It's easy to get swept up in the excitement, but we have to remember, technology isn't neutral. It reflects the values of the people who build it and use it.
Well said. We're not just watching this happen, we're part of it. We're shaping the future of AI.
I like that. We have a role to play. But okay, before we get too deep into the philosophy of it all, let's bring it back to RAG. There's something I've been wondering about. We've talked about how RAG finds and processes information, but what about the results? How does it actually present what it finds?
That's a great question. It really depends on what you're using RAG for and what you need.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just a short answer to a question. Other times it might be a detailed report, a personalized recommendation, or even something creative like a poem or a song.
Wait, really? It's not just limited to text. It can actually create different kinds of output.
Yeah, for sure. And how it presents the information is just as important as the information itself. It needs to be clear, engaging, and tailored to whoever's using it. Some RAG systems even use visuals, like charts and graphs, to make complex stuff easier to understand.
Wow, so there's a lot of thought that goes into the design, not just the technical side, but also the user experience.
Absolutely. As RAG gets more common, I think we'll see even more focus on making these systems easy and intuitive to use.
That makes sense. So we've talked about the inputs, the processing, the outputs, but there's one more piece we haven't talked about, and that's feedback. How do we make sure our RA systems are constantly learning and getting better?
That's really important. RA isn't static.
Yeah.
It's always evolving based on new data and feedback.
So it's not like set it and forget it. We have to make sure these systems keep learning and adapting to new information.
Exactly. And there are a couple ways to do that. One is explicit feedback, where users actually rate the responses they get.
Okay.
The other is implicit feedback, where the system learns from how people interact with it, like how long they spend reading a response or if they click on related links.
It sounds like there's a lot involved in building a really good RAG system.
It is, but the payoff is huge. By using feedback, we can make sure our RAG systems are always improving and getting close to what humans actually need and expect.
It's like a cycle, right? The more we use and interact with these systems, the better they get. And the better they get, the more we'll use them, which makes them even better.
Exactly. That's what makes RAG so exciting. It has the potential to totally change how we deal with information and how we interact with the world.
It really feels like we're on the edge of something big here. With RAG, it's not just about making AI smarter, it's about making it more connected to like the real world, more in tune with how things are constantly changing.
Yeah, it is a big shift. What's cool to me is how RAG kind of blurs the line between what AI knows and all the information that's out there constantly growing.
It's almost like giving AI a direct line to everything that's happening all the time, tapping into like the collective knowledge of everyone.
That's a great way to think about it. And as that connection gets stronger, I think we'll see AI becoming even more important in helping us understand, well, everything. It's a crazy world out there.
Yeah, it is. It's like having this super-powered research assistant who never sleeps, always reading everything, and then summarizing it all for you in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. And RAG's not limited to just text either. It can handle images, videos, even audio.
Oh, wow. So we could have RG systems that analyze like medical scans or understand what's happening in satellite images or even compose music based on like what's trending online.
Exactly. There's so many possibilities. And as RAG keeps getting better, I think we'll see it built into more and more of our devices and apps. So AI just becomes a natural part of our lives.
It's almost like AI is becoming less of a separate thing and more like an extension of our own minds, helping us think faster, learn better, make better choices.
I think you're right. And as that happens, how we think about AI will change too. Instead of seeing it as a threat or something that will replace us, we'll start to see it as a partner, something that can help us solve problems and create new things.
It's exciting, but a little scary too, to be honest. But no matter what, RAG is pushing the limits of what AI can do, and it's going to be wild to see where it goes from here.
Totally agree. And I think this deep dive has given us a good understanding of what RAG is and why it's such a big deal.
I think so too. And for anyone listening who wants to learn more, we'll be sure to include some links in the show notes.
Good idea. And if anyone has thoughts or questions, we're always happy to chat on social media.
Absolutely. We love hearing from you all and learning from your perspectives. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those questions coming.
It's been great talking about RAG with you today. Always a pleasure, and looking forward to our next deep dive.
Same here. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this exploration of RAG. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into something amazing that's shaping our world. Until then, stay curious.